Hey everyone, welcome to the live stream. Want to welcome all of you and welcome Long Live Coins, who is my guest for today. Welcome LLC.
Hello, Tiger. How you doing?
Oh, I'm okay. Pretty long day, long week. Been working on trying to get some new videos edited and ready because for a little bit I'm going to be going back to New Mexico to work out there. And I like to have videos sitting in the back room in case they kick my butt and I can't get a chance to go ahead and get videos done. I like them in the back room ready to go. It's a little bit hard because I'm also trying to do some other things, such as do some live streams and playing with my pouring station. I don't get a chance to pour as much as the big boys.
How's that going? You having fun there?
I'm having fun. I'm figuring out problems. As I might have told you, I went ahead and my 2 auto quite a few months ago broke down on me. I ended up getting a new one from a different company, and I'm doing a video on a product comparison so that I can show people the goods and the bads of both companies. So that's one of the ones I'm working on. It's it's challenging because I did one version of the video with the instrument or the equipment there. Then I did one version of the video showing stuff off the internet. And I think I'm going to have to combine them, which is going to be interesting because I got to learn how to overlay one picture onto another picture. It's really challenging. I'm sure you've run into similar problems with some of the stuff you've done.
Oh, indeed.
So, I'm learning how to be a person who is pouring silver. I'm learning how to be an editor. I'm learning how to do other things. I'm trying to teach my wife new stuff so she can build her channel. And very hard to do because she loves her artificial intelligence and most people don't. So fun.
Yeah, no doubt. Since I've started, it's been nonstop and just unable to catch up. Just because, you're trying to learn software and how to connect things and run things, and yeah.
So true. Let me say hello to everyone here. Bear with me here while I try to get my computer to actually cooperate with me. Fun. Where's that cursor? There it is. Okay. Welcome, Coin Junkie, Amy Harrell, Rockzilla, Metal Matt, Southeast Stacker, you, of course, LLC. Let's see here. Joseph Lopez, N. Marsh, William E. LLC. LLC's William E. LLC a relative of yours? Oh, never mind. He was saying hi to you. Never mind. And I think I got everyone. So if you'll see someone new in the chat, please bring them to my attention. I might get caught up in the conversation and completely get lost in the whole trail of things. I sometimes do that. It's a fault of mine, but we'll blame it on Long Live Coins.
As usual.
Well, of course, we got to fit it in somewhere, dude. So, Chad Wolf, and I'm not going to try the rest of that last name. That's a tough one.
No doubt. I've struggled with that one myself.
So, I'm going to introduce the subject, and if LLC has something he wants to cover first, we'll do that. But the topic is, how much is your money getting you these days? AKA, what is your real value of money? And I got an interesting twist for that. Some of you might have heard it before, some of you might not have, but I want to go ahead and get that pointed out. But anything you want to cover first?
I don't know. Let's just go into it, and then if we hit a dead space, I'll throw in.
Okay. Well, as you all know, in the past, gold and silver were real money. And, based upon the Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, that nothing but gold and silver will be produced by any state for anything for the payment of debt, which didn't stay that way for a very long time. They've debased it. They got one of the first ones I noticed is we got away from the half dime and into the nickel, which had no silver in it until World War II, and then came back out. But slowly but surely, oh, you're showing me something. What are you showing? Let me see.
I'm just showing you what this is. So this is the Constitution right here, and this is where it says that. It says, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts.
So very true.
And then it goes on to say, there's a lot of very interesting information, right? If you just read a little bit of the beginning of that, there's a lot in there that says a lot nowadays.
It does. It does. And then they brought in gold and silver certificates, and then eventually got us tricked into going into this stuff. This is nothing but a debt instrument. Doesn't even say gold certificate or silver certificate. It says Federal Reserve note. Note meaning nothing more than a debt instrument. We have been nothing but a debtor nation for years. And they want to keep us that way. But as I mentioned before, I learned some lessons from my grandfather. And then I started learning some lessons from my life. So I wanted to point these out to you all so that you all can see what I see. Hey, Amar, welcome. So basically, my grandfather taught me about basics of money, silver, and I was born in 1962, the last 3 years that silver was used in our coinage. And it was certainly after 1933 when FDR tried to confiscate the gold, in 1934 when he tried to confiscate the silver. And then in 1967, I think Lyndon B. Johnson put out a notice to all Americans not to hoard the silver from the prior coinage. But this was all part of a huge design. Go ahead, LLC.
Well, I just wanted to point out about what you just last said, that I found out that when they said that not to hoard the silver, that they said what they said was don't hoard the silver for potential gains, for we stand ready to sell it into the market. And they actually did. They sold lots and lots onto the market. And I found that out the other day. In fact, you can get bars that are coined from the sell-off of that era from the government. So yeah, I just thought I would throw that in there.
Well, I didn't know that part. Thank you. So I want to point out something here to you, because in fact, I'm going to try to find that on, just show you here. Let me get that up here. Now I'm going to share it on my screen. This is one of my very first videos. And I've borrowed the information that I did for this back then because it's history, so the information does not change. Let's see here. Here we go. Let's share a screen with you.
Right. And McFadden says they held a ton in Morgans and peace dollars too and sold them through the GSA. Yeah.
Yeah, I have one of those. Here, I'll show you. Let me get I got this. I got this when I was in Lubbock, Texas, visiting Ringmaster Ray. We visited his coin shop.
Cool.
So this is my only GSA. It's a Carson City. Had a little price. It was a little pricey, but it's worth it.
Yeah, cool. Nice. Nice little coin.
Yeah, it is. So I want to point this out to you, that this video right here, Worsening Trends Exposed, is when I was done a little over a year ago, and I talked about what I noticed in my lifetime. So I'm going to go over that because it still applies. I want to point out that even something as simple as television, you could tell the difference if you paid attention. And in that video, I mentioned that during the 1960s, when I was a kid, and Adam West played Batman, he was millionaire Bruce Wayne. When Michael Keaton comes along, he's billionaire Bruce Wayne. And it wasn't that much of a period of time in between. I think it was maybe plus or minus 20 years. A lot happened in that period of time. Our inflation went up, our purchasing power went down. We left the Bretton. I'm having trouble with my tongue. When Nixon went ahead and got us completely off the gold standard, and how at that time we left it, and how fast we went down. This is the time when Nixon parted us from the dollar. And also, if you notice how fast we went down ever since 1913, the development of the Fed, and we lost 50% immediately. And it was a similar trend as what happened in the Roman denarius.
Yeah.
And you being a man who loves ancient coins can pretty much attest to that, because I'm sure you know the Roman history of money better than I do. But if you look at it, to give you an example here, cars in the 1960s, when I was a little kid, the average car in the 1960s was approximately $2,600. Now they're in the 30,000s or more.
Yeah. Yeah. Base car now is in the 56. I mean, well, you can get cheaper, but yeah, it's getting crazy.
It's way ridiculous. I remember, if your car cost $10,000, you spent a lot. Back then cars they guzzled gasoline. There was no fuel, consumption that people were worried about. Price of gasoline back then cost 32 cents a gallon. And I've noticed it's come down a little bit under Trump's administration, but it's still not 32 cents a gallon.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's been the train has been on the same track for a long time, and it has to continue down the same track or implode. That's kind of, I think a lot of people miss this. But that's I think that's why we just experienced what we experienced with the tariffs. This is a big paradigm shift, and we're seeing reality come back into play because we've been, I look at it as kind of in an illusional world ever since we got taken off of that base system of gold and silver swap, where you could take your silver note and exchange it for a coin of gold or a coin of silver, either one. This is a silver certificate right here. But ever since we signed off of that system, and right when the president came out and said that, the very next words out of his mouth after he said we closed the window temporarily, mind you.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the temporary to start being temporary.
Right. I mean, that's a long temporary. But the reason he said it is because he thought he wanted to leave the possibility of them turning it back on, right? At least make people think that, and put more trust in, oh, well, they'd turn it back on if we start getting, and it's that. But anyway, the next words out of his mouth were, but don't worry, we'll be an honest, forward-looking trading partner.
Right.
Basically saying we'll keep our ledgers, straight, flat, and even. And, as if to calm the market and say, oh, we'd never print money out of thin air, to inflate. But, it's been that the train's been going down the same track ever since we departed the gold window. And it's gotten to just such an extent that I think, that's part of what just happened here is reality came back into play, and real true commodities, goods and services need to be renegotiated. And for us, yes, it'll get a lot more expensive because that we're going to have to pay that. And that's what happens when these types of things take place. Well, revaluations, basically.
Well, we have gone far from where we were. We were a powerhouse. We were an industrial nation. We made our own stuff. We exported more than imported. And let me get to some hellos and some comments here, if I may. Hello, Pete Clark. Hello, T.Y. McFadden. Hello, Niels Hahn Dynasty. In fact, Neil made a comment about tariffs on chickens by Canada. And, by the way, a little side note, I do promote the First Amendment, free speech. Just be nice to each other. Okay, don't be rude to each other. Don't say nasty things to each other. You're allowed to have your opinion. And if someone doesn't share your opinion, still be nice and be professional. I appreciate that. Silver Spurs, Space Miner, welcome. Now, on the topic of tariffs, I stand by what I said in my video. I did 2 videos on tariffs. One talked about the past when our country first started, and the second one continued on. I think tariffs have the potential to be much better than taxes, but it requires everyone participating and playing honestly. My concern is big business will try to use their advantage to increase their profits, like they did during the Industrial Revolution, which caused us to get unions, and then unions became powerful and they wanted a piece of the pie, which drove the prices up, which then led to globalization and things like NAFTA. Okay, then they left the country because they could have higher profit margins getting workers in other countries that didn't have things such as unions. Now it's cheaper for them to come back in because of tariffs. So in that respect, I think tariffs will probably help us out a lot, bringing industry back. And we need the industry back. We are a weak country right now. We don't produce nearly the amount of raw material we need for a war machine in case another global attack happens or we get invaded individually. We don't have the fuel to support our military. That was used up during the Biden administration to try to keep gas prices low. We don't have the amount of steel that we can make ourselves, the amount of food that we can make ourselves. We don't make the amount of ships. China is making way more ships than what we're making. And by the 2030, we're going to be dwarfed unless we turn the tables. So I can understand where people are coming from about their fear of tariffs. We need to strengthen our country, and it's going to be difficult. People are used to taxes. They've had generations of taxes instead of tariffs. They don't know any better. Just like they don't know about gold and silver because they've been taught out of the system. They've been taught out of the topic of tariffs. We have the potential to turn this around. Do I have God's omnipotence? No. Do I have Solomon's wisdom? No. But I'm not a dummy. And I honestly think that if we all pull together as a nation, just like the greatest generation that ever lived during World War II, we have the ability to turn this around and make our country strong again. But is Trump going to make 100% perfect decision each and every time? No, no one does. So he was elected in a landslide, both popular vote and the electoral college. Let him do his job. Let's see what happens. We're going to notice worsening because we're currently working on stuff that was put in place by Biden's administration, and it takes a while to turn the ship. You're not talking about a little speedboat which you can turn on a dime. You're talking about a big battle cruiser, which takes a lot of nautical miles to change direction. And you got to give it time for it to get over and over. Farm stacker, I'm going to get to that here in a second. Let me put it this way. My dad lived during the times, and he used to say that all the time, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. At that time, I was a young boy, young teenager, and just thought my dad was just upset because he didn't make as much money as other people. Well, let me point this out to you. Homes. Average home was $11,900. The average income at the time was $5,600. The price of home to income was 2 to 1. In 2019, the average home was, $245,000 against a $68,000 income, which is a 3.5 to 1. So you had to work harder to pay off your home. I already mentioned the gas prices. Retirement. In the past, retirement was covered by the employers. My grandfather had 2 retirements, one from the Navy and one from the coal mines. He spent many years in retirement comfortably. You won't see that today, except maybe something like the government or the railroads or something like that. Now employees have to provide a large portion of their own, or maybe 100% of their own, with 401ks, 403bs, IRAs. And if you're lucky, your employer provides a match. Some of them don't, or maybe they only provide a partial match. Where in my work, and maybe some of yours also, they don't want to hire a W-2 employee. They want a 1099. Why? No benefit package. They don't have to pay for it. They don't have to pay half of the Social Security. There's no job security. You don't get due process if something goes kapooey. They can get rid of you as fast as toilet paper. This is the life that ER doctors lead. This is why hospitals turn people over. We say it amongst ourselves. You're only as good as your last shift. You could be a hero for years and have one bad shift and you're gone. There was a guy in Virginia. He was there for 15 years. Very smart cookie. Was a leading surgeon in his day. And when he got semi-retired, he just worked ER and that's it. And during the COVID times, someone in the hotel that we stayed at, one of the ladies in the hotel that we stayed at, typed on her Facebook that this doctor said that hospital was not prepared for COVID. He was gone. Next day, gone. No due process. They didn't want to talk to him. They didn't want to hear his side of the story. Gone. How many of you would like that in your career? I don't think many. So this is the where we're at. There, it's gotten worse. So
Yeah.
the value of money. How do you base your value? Do you base it on how much money you have, how many dollars you have? Well, as we all know in our community, the value of the dollar is going down. The purchasing power of the dollar is going down. I want to propose to you an alternate way to value, okay, your time. In the past, how many hours in a month did you have to work to pay for the things that you wanted to pay for? How many hours in the current time that you have to pay for now? Are you working the same number of hours? Are you working less? Of course not. You're working more, maybe a second job, maybe a third job, maybe your spouse is working one or two jobs to maintain the same. Oh, I really want one of those LLC. I really want one of those, not only because it has Lynette Zhang, but it also has the value of gold showing the opposite of what's happening with the Fred, indicating what my dear friend Lynette Zhang said. The climbing price of gold indicates a failing economy. And that says it right there.
Exactly. Yeah. And what have we been? And that's what I want to point out. And I'm not, I should be careful, I guess. But like Lynette said, just say what she said one more time again.
The climbing price of gold is indicating a failing economy.
Right. And that's what we've been talking about on our channels now for quite a while. And what would that look like in real life? Well, that would mean that, and I don't know if anybody watches, financial channels like, we might, Tiger, but they talk about a financialized economy. And what they're meaning is they're just, any problem that comes up, instead of going and working on it themselves to fix the problem, they just throw a bunch of money at it and hope somebody else pays for it. Well, after a while, we lose our goods and our services, and we're just paying money like a lot over, to other places. And the point being that we've seen gold rising and rising, and basically it's topped an all-time high of not only other currencies but the dollar itself, and kind of just keeps going up and waving a flag up there. And when we see that, we can also expect that silver is going to start doing the same thing. And when goods and commodities, when reality basically starts coming back into play from living in this false disconnected reality where we just throw money at everything, then we're going to have commodities spike in price, goods and services start to change. And I mean, for me, what we're seeing now is kind of confirmation of what I've been saying, because major changes are now going to be able to take place. I think short term, it could be, fairly painful, But yeah, I mean, we definitely know we're not manufacturing our own stuff, right? Our all our drugs come from other countries, our goods
Yeah,
come from other countries, our, I don't even know what we're manufacturing for,
we-
like just what do we manufacture? Like not a lot. So
no. China can afford to go at war with us because they can restrict our goods and services. They can restrict our medicine. They can restrict uh, uh, things that we need for vehicles, EV or combustion based. We can't afford to fight with them at this point. We need to bring our industry back home. We need to bring to be able to be a producer, not only of materials like steel and vehicles and all that, but we need to be a producer of our own medicines. We need to be able to stand on our own 2 feet. And if we don't, we're going to be in big trouble because they're going to try to take over. Their plan has always been to be the global financial world leader.
yeah,
And and I mean, and the thing is that we can't live in a world of lies anymore. You
indeed.
know, well, the truth is like water. Eventually, it always finds its way out.
Yep.
So, you know, I agree with you, Amy. We need to be able to make our own stuff. We invented most of this stuff. It was in America, if I'm not mistaken, the insulin was found. It was in America that we found things such as the cotton gin, which I'm sure has been improved millions of times. Uh, so the thing is we need the ability to stand on our own 2 feet. We can't live in lies. Lies are nothing more than poison. It ruins us. Think about it. Your child lies to you, it ruins the relationship. Your spouse lies to you, it ruins the relationship. Someone in the community lies to you, it ruins the relationship. Same thing within our nation, and same thing internationally. And you'll never hear me say I'm 100% Trump supporter. I support him plus or minus 70%. And I think that he's right. We need to stand on our own 2 feet.
Well,
And
that's for sure. Like, there's no question that we need to do more manufacturing here. That like that's not even, you know, and I don't think a lot of people would argue that. It's probably just the method that we're getting back there that some people might question. But
mhm.
uh, yeah, no, I mean, we definitely need to manufacture more. That would just be, prevalent. I mean, as us kind of being saying we should be prepared for things, that's only relevant as well, right? I mean, we should be prepared for if we need to make our own medicine, we should be able to, just like that's what we say in our community, have some extra on, around so that you're okay when something, arises that the regular system isn't working. So,
Exactly. 949. Now I have a moment. Let me say thank you for the $10 or the $5 super chat. I think it was $5. Thank you for the super chat. $10.
yellow is like $10, man, to
You're
get you.
right. You're right. I forgot about the color
That's
thing.
what I have to match my color, so I'm always giving $10 tips. So I know that's a nice pricey tip there you got. Thanks,
Thank
949.
you, 949. So I mean, and the thing is that this stuff is rare. It's definable. It's got a finite amount. Same thing with gold. That's what makes it valuable. It's rare, but not too rare.
Yep.
Yeah,
And it's real. And for that, see, and there's a lot of things that I think people just don't. They mock you for thinking these things, but these are things in reality. Okay, and one of them is that this takes a lot of energy to get out of the ground, and when you can just print money, or like someone was Chad was saying, where you can just press a button and suddenly money appear, the magic money printer.
Oh, you mean this?
Right, I didn't see anything. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's there you go. Oh, I must be delayed over here quite a ways. Maybe that's
Yeah. How do you like that?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, here we go. I can use this for my yeah, so the reality of metals is that it takes a lot of effort. They're rare, they don't tarnish, they hold their value. That's all of their elements together is what make them natural money for over 5,000 years. And that's been our money system from just kind of day one. And a lot of people talk about, like, oh, we use seashells one time. For me, I don't really give much heedance to those things, because yes, I know in certain cultures at certain times they had to trade in something else, but I would say that's just because there was a lack of gold and silver there. And then you have to relate to, like, copper, that's been used for trade for lots. But it can be broke down to where you don't have any money and you have to use whatever is relevant for you at the time, relevant. Kind of like keeping honest trading books. But when one person gets a magic money machine or a magic money hat where you can just create value out of thin air and steal it from everyone else by doing that, that's where the problem gets bad and the reality gets very distorted. And to keep that reality distorted and keep your faith in this note, this federal debt note, they have to suppress this stuff. And so, a lot of people, and I'm not saying that the silver squeeze worked, but I do want to point out that it's kind of funny that, like, a lot of people are kind of laughing and mocking about that. And I didn't start the silver squeeze. I don't know anything about it. But what's funny is, if the silver squeeze was to work, and it did work, it would look like what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could say that the silver squeeze actually worked, because that's what it would look like when something like that works. That was the point of the silver squeeze, is let's not let them control the commodities of the world through fake paper while ripping everyone else off doing it.
Well, my take on the silver squeeze was, could it have been done by the big bullion dealers? Yeah. It could have also been done by people, shorting silver. They buy a ton of it and then get everyone hyped up after they already own a ton of it. Then everybody runs out of FOMO and the price goes up, and the people who already bought it at a lower amount are giggling because they now have the silver that they had now put back into the market in exchange for a higher dollar amount. Yeah, they pulled the rug on people. I don't think it worked this time because it's been pulled. I think this is the fourth time. Let me think. You had the Hunt brothers, you had 2008, 2011, 2021, and this one here. So that's five attempts. Four of them, I think, actually worked.
Well, that's it. That's the point, is they actually have worked. See, and if it wouldn't be that like Gerald Celente says, for anybody that ever's watched Gerald,
I love that guy. Oh my goodness.
When all else fails, they take you to war.
Yeah.
Well, we've been there for a while. See, and it's not like these things are separate. I know, I think a lot of people think that they are kind of separate, but it's not. It's the reason we go to war is because our money is no good anymore. I mean, it's not only that, but that's a big part of it. Or the trade, we're unhappy with trade, or someone wants more land than some. These are the things that create that spark and chaos. And see, when you're a country who can just print money out of thin air and take other people's actual valuable goods, and they get a paper currency that is devaluing over time, and they can just keep printing whenever. See, it's a little bit unfair.
A little bit.
Well, and so when you suppress and suppress and suppress a commodity so far to where now people aren't able to get and actually come through with the product that they need, they have to go somewhere else and find that product through a back door somewhere else, and then suddenly silver's not available for other people to get. It just starts reversing. And that's what, remember how I was talking with you last time about how the premiums on the retail side were down to nothing, but the premiums on like 1,000-ounce bars and 100-ounce bars was actually higher than 1-ounce rounds on the retail.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying is when reality starts coming back into play, the people who need the silver that can't get it, they don't, or at least you're not going to hear about it for a while, because they're going to back doors to get the silver whichever way they can before the message gets out that silver's not being delivered. So it starts getting swallowed up in the back, by the people who have the money to swallow it all up before the retail knows. And what makes me sad is that the retail thinks, we'll sell out on this high and then just get back in on the low. But one of these times they're going to go to do that, and the metal might not be there. Because, once the backwardation sets in and it will start getting really, people just won't put it out for sale anymore, because it's just, it's going way too volatile, way too fast, way too, pricey. Like, okay, so, and I've been saying on my channel that we're going to see $5 moves a day in silver. And I know a lot of
not kind of happening yet.
A lot of people have been mocking that, but we just today, just today, this morning, if we go look, I could even share the page if you want me to, but if you go over here to Bullion by Post and look at their daily silver chart price, we went like $3 in 3 minutes. So
did it reset to a lower amount?
Yeah, it dropped down like a couple bucks, and then within just a few minutes, it jumped up $3, and now it's settled back at like 30. But my point was, I said $5 in a day, and it went $3 in like 3 minutes. And so that type of volatility is going to come back more and more as this thing starts to unwind, I think.
Right.
Those are just my crazy.
I think the manipulation of silver has been both a positive and a negative.
For sure.
I think, and I agree with a lot of other people, that they are trying to suppress this stuff so that they can get their hands on it for industry. There's talk, even, is there enough silver for an eternity? When will it run out? How will it run out? All that type of stuff.
Well, we've been in like a 5-year continual deficit, yeah?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're already having to eat into our existing stockpile for the last 5 years. We're eating everything that's coming out of mining, and our mining is we're pulling less and less silver out of the ground, even though we're running more machines, and we're eating more than we're mining a year, and we're having to go into our stockpile, and I mean that can't continue, especially when we're going into like trade wars over commodities. And we import most of our metals, and there's news there. I can't drop it all yet because
we can't maintain a military by importing steel. We can't maintain it. Or are you talking about metals, precious metals?
Well, I mean, all of it, really. I mean, you need all of those things.
Yeah. You know, and we don't. I don't know if we have enough of the non-precious metals, but if I remember correctly, we only have in this country one nickel mine, only one, and we need to get more coming in. There is uh, Alaska needs to be mined a lot because there's not only precious metals, but there's also oil and there's also non-precious metals there. We need to be bringing in our own supplies. And how are you going to go to war against someone who's providing you the supplies to go against them in war? They're going to say, we're not selling to you anymore. We're going to strangle you so that your war machine can't work. And I'm not saying that we need to go into war, that we should start a war. I prefer to have peace like most other people, but sometimes the bully just gets too big and the bully needs a good punch in the nose.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm afraid we're the bully.
Well, we're not the only bully.
No, for sure, but
we're not the only bully.
It's just like you're saying, it's a fact. Like, what you reap, you sow, or karma, or however you look at that. But you can't just go around doing certain things and not expect certain reactions. So
that's true. And the thing is that we maintain peace through strength. And that's the only way you're going to maintain peace is through strength. And whether it is monetary strength, military strength, political strength, if you don't maintain the strength, you're not going to maintain. I don't get me wrong. I love this country. I was part of the military. And granted, I was part of the Guard and Reserve, but if I would have been called to duty, I would have done what I could. I was a little worried at that time because I was just a brand new doctor straight out of med school. I didn't know my left side from my right side, but I didn't. In your intern year, you have tons of book smarts and no real experience. And the thing is you're right, T.Y. McFadden, but the thing is that if you don't maintain a strong military, then you don't maintain. And it's the Second Amendment that protects the First. So let me.
Well, hold on. I mean, there's a few. Can I just?
Yeah.
I know what you mean, but can I say a few things about that?
Absolutely not. That's why I brought you up here.
Well, when you're reading the Constitution too, like I was saying, if you just read the first little bit of it, yes, like Tiger's saying, we've got the First Amendment and the Second to enforce the First, and I agree with that statement. And it talks about the necessity, basically, of having a well-armed militia.
That's what I was just going to show you here. Let me pull this up.
Well, but point being is, it wasn't that we were relying on a strong military. It was that we were relying on a strong militia.
That's right here.
Awesome. And another thing is that it says right there in the beginning, we shouldn't even have ships off of port in the sea, like wartime ships, if we're not in war. And we shouldn't even have them out at sea unless we start getting invaded. So I mean, they were, what they were saying was, don't be like Rome and go conquer all these other areas and try to maintain them, and because you'll lose your own strength, and you don't need all that, especially as America. That was kind of the point. And yeah, I just wanted to point that out.
You can't always be on the defense. If you're always on the defense, people are always going to try to invade, which is what happened during the War of 1812. that was pretty much kind of the second American Revolution, where Britain was taking our ships, taking our sailors, taking our soldiers, converting them into English military to fight for the king. Until such time as they went too far, and then the Battle of 1812 really broke out. And in fact, the Battle of New Orleans, where Major General Andrew Jackson pretty much whooped their butts. And not saying anything bad about the British. I love the British, but it was a time when they thought America was a new country. We can take them back. We can regain what was ours. There's always going to be that mentality. Always. You can't help it. It's part of the human psyche, part of the human equation. And if you don't maintain a level of strength, you're going to be in a battle and at a disadvantage. It's one of the reasons why I always say bullies need a good punch in the nose, because bullies will always be bullies until they meet someone that whoops their butt, and then the bully stops. And it doesn't matter if it's a big kid from junior high or high school, or it's another country that wants to challenge the leadership, the power of the United States, because they don't like how we've weaponized the dollar. Which brings me back to the whole project. How do you value your money? Do you count the numbers? I don't anymore. I don't count the numbers of these things anymore. I somewhat count the numbers of the ounces, but I really value my worth based upon time. I was thinking about this. I got 10 shifts this month. And even with my income, I can't do what I did 10, 20 years ago. I'd work 10 shifts in a month for 12 hours a day. I could have the whole darn rest of the month off. Can't do that anymore. You have to, everything's gone up, not just food and gas. The amount of money that states want for medical licenses has gone up. It used to be you had one DEA license, and it covers you for the whole entire United States. And then you had, if you worked in this state or that state, that one DEA license covered you. Now you have to have a license for each individual state. It started off with like plus or minus $200 for a DEA license. Now it's $800 for each state you have to have a license in, because you're practicing in.
Wow.
No joke.
Ouch.
So what would cost me $200 now is $800, $1,600, $3,200.
Wow.
That's money out the door.
No doubt.
You don't get you don't get that to pay your bills. You have to work harder, longer to get that money back. And you can earn this stuff back. Are you going to earn your time back? Are you going to regain those hours or those months that have been spent?
Yeah.
The real value is not this. The real value is not this. The real value is your time.
Yeah.
You only have so many months, so many days, so many hours, so many minutes on this earth. And then you're gone.
Indeed.
Okay? Your real worth is your time. And that's what I really want to point out. Thank you, Amy. I appreciate that. But the
Yeah,
bottom,
and another thing, yeah, there's many things, that I'm realizing I need to point out more on my channel. So just as because people need to everyone has a different situation, and that makes a huge difference on how you should handle things. If I'm at the bottom of the barrel and I don't have lots of money, I don't have a lot of savings, and so I had to start at the beginning. And you can't go invest where the big money is in the stock market, and all these people that have millions of dollars, they just move their money around to constantly make more money, and that's why the money is in those money making places. But you have to have money to do that and know what you're doing. For me, I don't know any of that, and I don't have any money, so the only thing I could do is take a little bit that I had and put it into silver. And then you just keep doing that, every week you add a little more, another ounce. Pretty soon you have a base, and now you can actually start thinking about things a little bit. But you gotta start, you gotta know where you're at in the system as to how you want to invest. And I'm at the bottom, and if you're at the bottom and you start with silver or gold or precious metals, now then you're starting a base, and once you have your base, then you can think about other means of investment and other things to do. But me being at the bottom and getting into it, the other thing about me in my personal situation was I was looking at my family and my situation and looking at how I thought the world was going to progress. And I thought, man, I need to do something to procure, some value here, because I think we're going to lose a lot of people are going to lose a lot of their value that they're relying on. And if we don't have something real, me being on the bottom, I could really get crushed. So I kind of I try to put everything that I get into these metals so as to prevent me from being able to be taken out at the knees, kind of thing.
yeah, and that brings back to the subject that was mentioned by one of the members here. I think it was TY. He mentioned something my dad said years ago: the rich get richer and the poor get poorer.
Yeah.
Not if you are outside the system.
Yeah.
Not if you maintain your wealth outside the system.
Right. And that was kind of what I wanted to finish out on. My point was that, if you have a couple little kids like I do, and you're kind of worried about what their future is going to end up being and how they're, if I'm on 3 hamster wheels and my wife on a few hamster wheels, and we're jumping and running and, ducking as fast as we can, and we're starting to fall behind, how, unless now we may be experiencing some of these big changes now, but anyway, point being, I can hand this off to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And know that value is going to be there for them if they get into a bad situation too.
Does that mean that when you're saying you're going to hand these off to your children, you're going to tell them exactly where the shipwreck went down, that you won't tell the government?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
and by the way, I do want to see a bee on a hamster wheel running as fast as he can.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, and the question is are the wings flapping, or are you going to keep the wings still? Which way makes you more productive?
A little of both.
Okay.
You don't want to be stiff and rigid.
And 949, it is so rigged. It is all rigged. Unless of course you're the bee.
Right. So yeah, I think it's really important for everybody to know where they're at, and I think for me, starting off just kind of at the bottom and that's the people that I think that I can talk to, is just kind of the person who doesn't like when I started, I had credit card debt and I was just continually spending and paycheck to paycheck, and so I just put a little bit into that 1 ounce right there. And then it was like, I'm looking at it, and the next month comes and you're still spinning and you're going through all your credit cards and you're like, okay, but I'll make myself buy one more. And pretty soon you end up with a stack of metal with a value to it. Whereas before, when you were just, spending your credit card and barely making minimum payments without getting any of this, you're always in the hole continually. And I start to watch that stuff build, and it's like, wow, that's real wealth that I'm starting to collect, even with this false reality right here. And that's kind of the good thing about the suppression of the metals, is if you can figure that out, now you can become an alchemist, basically, right? You can turn not very much into something very substantial. And so that's how I have to handle my bottom of the barrel up strategy.
There's my buddy.
There, nice. That's a nice one. Hey, I got mine right here too, and I got let me see if I can pull this over here. Got you up on the chipboard there. On Zoomage.
Yeah, I gotta learn how to do zooming and stuff with this.
There we are. There's your poker chip there up on the board.
There you go.
So yeah. Oh wow, we got a bunch of people coming in here. Somebody, 949 gifted a membership. Nice.
Thank you, 949.
Vote for Pedro is in the house. Welcome in.
Here.
B. Taylor,
got one. Stack Ann got one. Vote for Pedro got one.
Silver Boy Blues.
B. Taylor. Those look like the ones. Congratulations on that. Welcome, Silver Boy Blues. I haven't seen you in a while, man. How you doing?
Yeah, good to see you guys. Thanks for popping in.
Yeah, I haven't done a lot of lives recently. I'm working at trying to do better with that.
Yeah, I need to do more of both. But like you say, man, there's so much stuff going on, and you're trying to figure out how to just change one little thing on your software, and it can take like a week to figure out how to, find one little button.
Oh my goodness, that's so true.
It drives you absolutely nutty, or does me anyway. So
gold sniping, I just gave up 5.
5 more by
Farmer, Angry Warrior Tackle Box. Angry, I saw your interview with Frosty. It was awesome. I still want to get in touch with you so that I can talk to you about pouring and things that's going on. Loved your advice on Delft clay versus the homemade stuff. Broke Stacker got a membership. Patty Angel 64. Sully B Juice. Is that in relation to Beetlejuice? Got one. So congratulations on your memberships. Thank you, Metal Matt.
Yeah, good to see Gold Sniping Farmer, Angry Warrior, Broke Stacker, Patty Angel, Celeb Juice, Wasp, Jags Fan. Yeah, Metal Mate, Silver Spurs. Already got you, but good to see y'all.
By the way,
Silver Boy,
I should tell you every 3 months I'm going to be showing an appreciation day for my members. So the rules are in the last membership live that I did. So, if you want to become a member, you don't have to be, but if you want to be, that's awesome. Thank you, Metal Matt, for gifting that membership. Looks like it went to Stacking Surfer.
Stacking Surfer, welcome in. I wanted to point out Silver Boy Blues. I'm very sorry to hear that. It says that his brother passed and he had to put his mom into care. So yeah, very, very heartfelt out to you there, Silver Boy. Hang in there.
Sorry to hear about your brother. I know what it's like to lose family. It's horrible.
Check Stacker, good to see you. Thanks for
Hey,
popping.
Check. Tried to get a hold of you, dude. You and the Pride must have been out hunting antelope or something, dude, because you didn't answer your phone. That's the whole thing about. That's the wrong thing about being a lion. You always got to hang around a whole bunch of other lions, and usually you're being ruled by the girls. You can't be the leader of the pack. You can't be king of the jungle. Unlike the tiger, he can go off on his own and rule his own way. What do you think about that, Check? Anyway, by the way, I got something I just got from Stack in. I want to show it to you. So talk for a second here, LLC. I'm going to get something I want to show Check Stacker.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so let's see. What do we got for comments in the chat here? Yeah, it's been a long, 20 years ago. Bad 20 years. So. Wow, yeah, wow, that's hardcore there. Well, hopefully it'll bring some ease to things.
Who are you talking to?
Oh, Silver Boy Blues was just telling me some details, and I was saying hopefully it'll settle out a little, calm down a little.
It hurts. It hurts like crazy, and it hurts for a long time. But on time, it will get a little bit better.
Yeah.
Let me show this to Check.
No, yeah, I got one of those too. Those are sweet, huh?
Yeah, I'd like to get one more because all my stackers, I like to get two.
Yeah.
I don't want any more than two. They're too expensive.
Yeah.
But I like two, so I can say if I wanted to, I could stack them.
Right. Yep. That's what I've got some stackers too, but I've never taken them out of their plastic and stacked them.
The other ones, like the vault door, I've done it with things like that. But these ones, they really go concave.
Yep.
And I just don't want to take the chance because what if you accidentally dropped and it hit the ground on one of these edges? It won't stack anymore because it'll be dented. And silver's too soft of a metal.
Yep. Yep.
No, Silver Boy, do not apologize. You're not a downer. Okay? You're not a downer. Life throws us all curveballs. I don't know anyone who is free from getting a curveball thrown at them. So,
sure.
we are all here not just for stacking and finances and all that. And, I'm not saying that I'm better than other people. I have my own problems, and I try to make myself a better person than what I already am. So basically, the thing is we, and you might, some people might share my opinion or maybe not. It doesn't matter because in the end, we'll find out what the truth is when time comes to pass. But my personal viewpoint, there is one ultimate stack, one huge, big ultimate stack in which we are going to be stacked. We are not stacking. We are not the stackers. We are the stackies. And what am I talking about? When the world comes through its fruition and God calls upon us, Jesus calls upon us, we will be stacked. And we got to work on ourselves to make ourselves better souls, to make us more valuable to be stacked with Him in heaven. So please do not down on yourself for being a downer. You're not. I always enjoyed having you around. I actually kind of missed you, Silver Boy. So
And it's good. Like, I think our society sometimes tries to get away from some of these things. Like, life is full of all these things. There's ups, there's really happy times, but then there's really sad and hard times like that. It's all of those things, and we shouldn't try to block certain things out and ignore them, because it just gets awkward because you're trying to block out part of reality.
well, not only that, but in addition to what you said, you know who your friends are, because anybody can be your friend during good times. A lot of people don't want to be your friend during hard times. So just a little food for thought. If you want to know who your friends are, who's with you when you're down and out?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's with you when things fall apart? Who's with you when you lost your mother or your dad or your brother or whoever, and you're crying your eyes out?
Yep.
Okay. Who's with you when you're laying in a hospital bed, potentially dying of sepsis? Okay. Those are your real friends. And that's something I try to teach my teenage patients who roll in the ER, who want to badmouth their mother or their father. It's like, kid, dude, you don't get it. You're here with big, bad, and ugly sitting on your head, and where are your friends?
Yeah.
They're not your real friends. How many of them called to check on you?
Right.
Who's here in the ER with you? Your mom, your dad, your brother, maybe one best friend if you're really, really, really lucky.
Right.
Those are your friends.
Yeah.
And I have more friends in YouTube than I have in the real world. It was all of you who prayed for my recovery 6 months ago when I had really bad sepsis. Okay. It was all of you talking to God, talking to Jesus about my recovery when I was laid up and I couldn't even stand on my leg because it hurt too bad. I had one not so long ago, last month, but it was nothing like it was 6 months ago. So you guys are my real friends. The ones who haven't checked on me, fair weather friends. So never apologize for feeling your feelings, suffering your sufferings. We're all here together.
Yeah, and that's what what I'm hoping, out of our communities, that we grow more on all those things and wanting to know the truth on all these things, because it's not fun to look into the monetary system and all the lies within that and all the pain that it causes, and that stuff's not fun, but it affects reality, and that's why I started my channel, is because a lot of people don't want to look at these things. And it's like, well, we need to have, whether we like certain things or not, if it's part of reality, then it's best to be, aware of it and try to be able to handle it. And, maybe not for certain, maybe some people don't like that type of a life, but I want to have awareness of reality and know that I'm, doing the best I can with what I got, type of deal.
Yeah. And that's the way it should be. It's the way it should be. Do the best you can.
Yeah.
You're not going to be perfect. None of us are.
Indeed.
So by all means, do the best you can for yourself, for your family. And am I a perfect stacker? No, I want to get things done that I am trying to get done. In fact, I was on the phone with one of the guys that comes to my house to do things that I don't know how to do. We're still trying to figure out a way of finding someone who digs a well. If we can't dig a well, how am I going to permanently be collecting rainwater? Those are two of my deficiencies right now. and I want solar power to the house. I have the biggest Generac generator, air cooled generator. But what happens if they cut off the natural gas? So I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but I'm a lot better than I was 3.5 years ago. And just give you an example, this last winter, we had 3 major ice and snowstorms. I was here for one out of the 3 of them. And we lost our power. And within 10 seconds, the Generac kicked in. And I could see a sigh of relief on my wife's face that she didn't have to worry because our whole house is run by electricity. So our heat would be maintained. We could cook if we needed to, etc. And, it's nice to be able to look at your spouse thinking, hey, I did that. 10 years ago, we would have been SOL. I did that. And it makes you feel really, really good inside. So basically, Check just put something in here. Let me see if I can get that up on the screen. Dose of reality on your video. You're dead. Your family's in trouble. My neighbor unexpectedly died last week and left his wife no instructions for anything, not even passwords. Thank you, Check. That's one of my very favorite early videos. And I've got that reminds me, I've got to redo my death letter to my wife. I have it hidden in 3 separate locations so that if something burns down, it's in another location or another location. And she knows where they're at. She's the only one who knows where they're at. But the point I'm trying to point out here is that you're going to have to. We're going to have to. Sorry, my computer went a little bonkers. If you can't get your spouse to listen to the words of advice you're giving them, at least let them know where the words of advice have been put on paper so that they can, because you can't put everything in a will. You would have a will that's about half the size of War and Peace.
Yeah.
The will covers the general overall stuff. The other letter, what I call my death letter, gives my wife the details. And she also knows that since the death letter has been made, she can call Frosty because he can talk her through anything numismatic.
Yeah.
Such as this. Okay. Which, by the way, is why I always leave prices on anything I buy. Where I bought it from, how much I paid for it, and when I bought it. So my wife will not get taken advantage of. And you might want to consider doing similar for your family members. I do me, you do you. Yeah. So if you ever want to go see that video, you're in trouble, you're dead, your family's in trouble, please go see that. I'm toying with the idea of remaking it, but I got a few other projects I want to accomplish first.
Yeah, that's good info. My wife the other night came to me saying, "Well, what do we do? I'm like, she was talking about other people and selling and like the issues you're talking about. I'm like, so and what would I do? I'm like, you keep stacking. That's what I said. If I die, you just keep stacking. You don't sell it. You keep stacking.
Well, you keep stacking, but what happens if she has her back to the wall?
Yeah, no, she knows. We watch. She knows about it.
Okay. Well, then you covered it.
Yeah. No, man. Not to the point that you have. I got to give you more credit where you're actually putting price tags on all your pieces and when you bought it. And that's much better than I do. She just has an overall understanding of, what's going on, kind of, so that
Yeah, but
she's pretty good.
how will she know if she's getting taken advantage of or not?
Well, yeah, there's plenty of people that she would know within our community to reach out to, that she could trust. So
Okay, so you brought her into the community somewhat.
oh yeah, I mean, she knows who you are. She knows who's, she knows.
Oh yeah. Hopefully she's
And I can trust you, right? You wouldn't rip me off, would you?
No. As long as you keep giving me that honey. Oh, who said that?
Yeah.
No, I had. How do I say this? There's a few ways to really destroy, quick, fast destruction, a relationship. One, money. You do someone dirty on money, you might not ever get their trust back again. Another one, betrayal. Betray someone, especially someone that has entrusted themselves to you, you might not ever get that relationship back again. And we need each other more than we need this stuff. And I'm not going to mention names, but some people in our community have taken advantage of other people in the community. How fast did that word spread like wildfire?
Right.
Who do you know that has taken advantage of other people? Who do you know that when they do auctions is constantly trying to get the biggest dollar out of the people in their channel? How many times do people want to keep going back when they've been taken advantage of? You see what I'm saying?
Yep, for sure. Welcome in, Bankless Stacker. Good to see you.
So, the bottom line is what do you got to do to take care of your family? And what do you got to do to take care of your friends? And one of which is don't betray them. And one of which is don't take advantage of them.
Yep. Yeah, if I can even point out something that, and I guess this is maybe a little bit personal or maybe off topic, but just like you're saying, in that same manner, how you treat people, like I actually put more value, like I put a lot of energy into stacking material metal, like actual silver that I think is going to maintain my value over time. But I think it's more important I actually concentrate more on trying to benefit others, benefit, those who you can have an effect on by like you say, kind of looking out for them or helping where you can, or basically always kind of building a buffer of doing good, for you and those around you. And in doing so, I think that kind of builds a buffer around you. Like, it just well, another way of looking at it is what goes around comes around, or however you would like to look at that. And if you're out trying to do good to others, often, in that where you might step in the wrong hole or do something wrong, seems like there's something there to kind of warn you, don't do that. That's, so I just, it's good to, just not be so self-conceited. Like, I stack for my family, and so, so that like I said, I can't get taken out at the knees. Like, I think is coming at us to take a lot of people who are kind of at the bottom of the ladder like I am. If those people at the bottom of the ladder like me aren't careful, we can easily be taken out. I could lose my home and my cars, and that would cause a lot of stress on the family. And so yeah, I stack the physical for those needs in that way, but like just paying attention to those types of things and other people's, situations around, and if you can help them out, then they're happy to help you out. And it just like the more forward positive you do, it kind of helps throughout all of life in that way, I think.
So true.
Just pointing that out as well.
So true. Like I said, we talk about community and keeping the faith, not just religious faith, but keeping the faith in each other, keeping the faith in our community, keeping the faith in our friendships, doing what it takes to make things right.
Yeah.
Our community is just as valuable as the medals, just as valuable as the food, because if you don't have the community and you run out of medals and you run out of food, you're SOL. But you might not be SOL if you have true friends and true family that say, we'll take you in, we'll help you get back on your feet. Here's a couple rabbits to start growing your own food at the house, and here's a couple chickens to get some eggs. My roof got blown over at the last storm. I'll give you so many ounces of silver if you fix my roof. They'll get you back standing on your feet if you have that type of community. If you don't, you're basically SOL.
Yep, and that's like you're talking, Lynette Zhang, one of her main things is community, right? One of her
I love that lady. She's my first teacher.
Pillars, yeah. Which, yeah, check. Thank you for that question. And it's just kind of down that line, I suppose. Like a lot of the things I talk about are kind of depressing and negative. I suppose I get interested in them, so it's interesting to me. But I realize some of the things I'm kind of doom and gloom, and some more than some, I suppose. And I thought, well, I can be honest and trying to make people aware of the reality of things through my my talking and interviews and my voice auctions. But then I thought, and I've always been a DJ and I really enjoy it. And with all the negativity on my channel, I thought, well, how can I lighten the mood? And just kind of things that you love. I'm like, well, I really like vinyl and spinning and DJing. I really like metals, and well, I wonder if I can combine them somehow, and lighten the mood and give people who are experiencing stress and having to actually go out and buy silver and gold. If they find a place of someone who understands what's going on, but he's yet still trying to make some fun out of it. So that's what I was trying to do. That was my idea behind it. And I just kind of came up with it. I was just, I had well, for one thing, a lot of our auctions online and a lot of the auctions I used to go to would just kind of have the same musical theme in the background. And then if you use StreamYard, you have like 5 songs that are free that you can pick off of StreamYard, and you play that same song over and over and over and over through the auction, and it just gets kind of monotonous. And so I was thinking about how I could DJ on someone else's auction. I was thinking, but then I thought, well, what if I just tried to do it all myself? And so I went for it, and it causes me to mess up a little here and there, but it's fun anyway. Try to lighten the mood, right?
Does StreamYard, I'm saying YouTube, give you a hard time about music?
Yeah. I mean, there's just last week I got my last song. I had one song left, and I got cut off before I could put my last song on because I played something that they felt was too heavily copyrighted to let it through. So yeah, I mean it happens, but I try to make note of like what they frown on, and and then I just go with what I can. So.
Well, my brother-in-law makes, I don't know how he does it. I think he uses artificial intelligence. He makes up all the music that have posted on my YouTube channel. And the intro that you've seen, the outro that you will see if you haven't seen it already. The birthday videos he's done 2 birthday videos for me. The the Rig Nation national anthem. I mean, I've never gotten copyrighted because it's all original stuff that he's made. So, I'd like to get into auctions. My concern is that if I can't make it fun and it's going to be just like everybody else's, I don't want to do it.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't even right now. There's really no need to, but there will be when there becomes a lot more interest in metals. If things go like I think they're gonna go, that's when it will make more of a difference, I think. But yeah, you wouldn't need to right now because it's just as good to talk because we all, we're all stackers, and yeah, some people are nice and they buy some stuff from me every once in a while, but it's all just kind of out of goodwill and being friendly, whereas
Yeah.
I think it'll over time get more.
Well, I want to do stuff that's fun. I want to bring fun to the table. Otherwise, it's just another auction, just like everybody else's other auction. And I kind of like doing things atypically. I never in a million years thought about ever doing a YouTube channel. And when I changed my name to my YouTube name, and then Yankee teased me a little bit, and I was like, holy smokes, my creativity that I thought was dead, because no one wants a creative doctor. They want a doctor to come in, do the job, get out, go home. Okay, that's the truth.
Yeah.
They don't want to see any creativity. That creativity is what you do on your own time. Creativity is what you do when you go karaoke.
Right.
So when my first 3 videos were plain Jane, mundane. I wasn't ready to let the character out of the bag. And I just, on the 4th one, I'm like, okay, we're ready. Let's do this. My wife walks into the studio, which is my man cave, and she sees me with not only these, but the ones that had the claws on them also. And she is smiling. She was filming me, filming myself. She had the greatest time since. I didn't know that you had this part of you. Said, I did. I just thought it was dead. And you all allow me to be both the real me and the character. When I am talking precious metals, it's the real me. Protecting your family, protecting yourself, it's the real me. And when I'm having fun, especially, teasing Yankee, it's the character. And I have a great time, and I enjoy doing this. And besides, to be honest with you, with what I do for a living and the fact that I harvest rabbits, and rabbits don't want to be harvested, I got scratches all over my hands. They're not very pretty.
Yeah.
And with having diabetes, you don't heal very fast. So trust me, this is a lot more attractive.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you all because you all let me be the real me, and then other times let me be the character. So I have fun doing both of them. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, it's you got to have someone to relieve some of that stress from your doctoring job. That's got to be one of the more stressful fields to work in.
Well, that's one of the reasons I also enjoy doing the videos, hanging out with all of you, whether it's my channel or someone else's channel. I also enjoy pouring the silver. I also really enjoy when I mess it up. If I mess it up, it's like I'll sit down for a long time. It's like, okay, what went wrong? What went wrong? How do I fix it? Blah blah blah. My wife looks at me and says, "That's so boring." I said, "No, it's not." So why not? It's because this stuff is more than a precious metal. It's an element. It's part of the periodic table, and that allows the scientist in me to come alive, as well as the creativity to work hand in hand.
Yeah.
And she'll hear me in the garage hammering away, and try to create different things. I've got more things I want to create than I have time to create. I've got something I'm working on right now that I don't want to talk about until I can see if I'm going to be successful at it. But as soon as I get done with finishing that project, hopefully the rest of this week I'm going to do a lot more pours to make a lot more of the items that I want to make. For instance, I made a lot of what I call my MAGA rounds. Probably going to hold off on making those because I got a bunch of those. So if people want them, they can buy them from me. If not, that's okay. But I'm going to make other items that I want to make. I want to make things that look like the stickers. That's in my list of things to do. So this is all stress relieving. I love being part of this community, and I love having fun with you all, and I love hanging out with you all, and I love the pouring of the silver, and I love the screw ups because that gives me something for me to focus my intelligence on that's not medicine, because I need a break from that.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you, Silver Boy.
Yep. Yep.
So I talk too much right now. It's your turn.
Hey, OC. Welcome in.
Hey, OC. How you doing, man?
OC's a good character in our community. He's always running around helping everybody out.
He is. And it's a good thing he's helping Surfer out because Surfer's job's pretty demanding also.
Yeah, he just has exploded. Yeah.
Not only is he exploded on his channel, but it sounds like his bosses have exploded on him.
Oh, really?
Work to do. So I feel for him. So, I think if it wasn't for OC, Surfer might be spinning wheels in mud trying to build everything. OC's become his best buddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was home to be his best buddy, but I live too many miles away. OC kind of beat me to it because he's like somewhat like a next door neighbor.
Right.
Like a good neighbor, OC is there. That's a little off tune. So
that is like the most catchy tune.
Oh yeah.
And it's like such a sticky saying too. Like it works so well in certain situations that like everybody has to use that a few times in their life.
I have all his gauze from his 10K party on my desk. So when are you sending them to me, OC? And I got dead silence. no comments, no giggles. LLC's ignoring me.
Well, yeah. What do you? So back to topic of
Okay.
how far your dollar goes, or how do you measure your wealth? You know, like you were saying earlier, you used to could do, your money would go further with the job that you had,
Mm-hmm.
and now you have the job that you had with a raise plus a side gig or two, and now also maybe your wife or your, you know, someone else in your family now has, like, and it's like that with everybody. Everybody's running like 3 jobs, you know, running. We're all on a hamster wheel,
Mm-hmm.
and we're in it's just kind of a losing ground, especially if you're not stacking. Like, man, you're gonna have to work harder and harder and harder, and not know what's going on, and be falling further and further. And that's like the most deceitful thing, to not tell the public when you're, you know, when that's like a legit thing going on.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. You know, the thing is, like I said, I could work 10 shifts in a month, pay my bills, and have money to take a trip to Ukraine, hang out in Ukraine for 2 weeks, and get back to Pennsylvania where I used to live, and go do 10 more shifts for the next month. Now I do 10 months or 10 shifts, and I'm like, I need to get some more work. You know, and I dollar wise, I make more of these than I did in the past, but that doesn't matter. They don't buy what it used to.
Yep.
Absolutely, it does not buy what it used to. I'm trying to get a second gig. I'm working at it, and getting a second gig. Uh, Getting a second gig is not so easy as a doctor, because when you apply for a job, they all treat you like you're a criminal to start with. No joke. You know, and if I showed you the questions that you have to answer for every job, man, they want to know what your great grandmother on your father's side, twice removed, and did they ever smoke marijuana? I mean, it's granted I exaggerated, but not by much. So
I would have flunked that one
yeah, well,
straight away.
but you get my point.
Yeah.
So getting a second gig is not so easy. One of my hopes and goals, since I like to hang out with all of you, is that I can one day become a big channel, and that way I can spend more time with all of you. I can spend more time with the wife. I don't have to travel as much. I don't have to work as much. If I got to being a 50% doctor and just did it enough to maintain my skills, then I've accomplished a major goal. I get a chance to hang out with the pretty girl that I got married to. I got a chance to hang out with my best friend, which is the same girl, by the way. And I get a chance maybe to do other things, maybe to travel a little bit, maybe to do more videos, do more live streams to create better content than what I'm doing, to do auctions the fun way that I see visually and mentally. But I can't do that if I have to work, and you know, and my wife might be right. Maybe I got the infections because I don't quit working. Maybe, you know, I need to, you know, build myself up to a point where I can chill. I can, you know, take extra naps with her, because you know she's like looks at me and says, "You really do like being home." Yes, you know, I looked at her and said, "Yeah, I love being at home with you. I'm miserable when I'm away from home. Only thing keeps me happy is you guys and YouTube." So I want to get to a point where my channel's big enough. I can drop to a halftime doctor. I can have fun with all of you. Maybe buy a couple extra things from Long Live Coins on the spinning bins. Don't tell them I said that. But no. How about you, LLC? What have you noticed in your purchasing lifetime career?
And it's not only me, like you can see it in society, you can see, and even now I hear people talking about it, about groceries or about this, or they fully don't understand like where the loss of the purchasing power is going. And there's lots of things I can tell they don't understand about it, but they are talking about like it being hard to afford groceries.
Hi, Michael Stacking.
And I just think I think we've been so lulled along in kind of this la la land, like I've been talking about, when we got disconnected and you put all that fake money into the system, and it's kind of like a gas or a vapor, and so there's a lot of reality removed from it. But so people don't understand, like they just they're talking about, well, I can't, it's just crazy, I go to the to buy groceries and I can barely afford a cart of groceries, and so at what point they'll finally, the word will get out, like I openly explain it on my channel all the time, but it doesn't seem to get out into the public. But and I don't know how long it will take, but I do hear it and I can see it. People just struggling to get by, and a lot more homeless, way more homeless. And so it's I notice it, that electricity gets more expensive, and all the ways that just and nothing gets cheaper, and you've got your house, your mortgage, and your cars, and if you got kids, oh my goodness, they don't stop eating, they just grow.
You feed your kids
and eat more. I found that I have to.
So, why?
Because I've tried to get around it, but it doesn't work.
Who cares about child labor laws? Put them to work.
Right. Well, I have to feed them for them to work is the thing, and they just eat their value in weight every time.
Oh, geez.
Really? Yeah, Michael, I know, right? It's just all the bills go up, and then your groceries go up, and then so like everything becomes tight, and if you don't understand, so you can imagine the frustration of people, and I think that's probably the amount of, like they say, so there's a statistical out there, like 90% of divorces are caused or stem from money problems, and I would say that probably 90%, and probably more like 80. If it's 90, then maybe 85%. You could swap that word out for inflation. 85% of divorces are because of inflation, because people don't understand where all that pressure comes from, right? Like they're working the same, and then their spouse is like, well, how come we're not paying our bills anymore? You need to work harder. You need to get it, and you don't understand that it's not either of you guys' fault. It's just that you don't understand the money system, and you're getting eaten alive.
That's true. The thing is that if they don't, they don't. I mean, you and I have an advantage, dude. Both of our wives came from Eastern Europe. Your wife's Russian, mine's Ukrainian.
Indeed.
They both lived through the USSR going kaplooey.
Right.
They stole, let's call it what it really is, stole everyone's money out of the banking system to line their own pockets after it went kaplooey.
Right.
Your wife lived through it. My wife lived through it. They combine their family efforts in order to survive, which is what I believe what happened in the 1910s and 1930s here. And they understand government and the skullduggery that they did in order to have the rich be richer and the poor get poorer, because they stole the people's money. We have that as an advantage. If we had wives that didn't understand that, like, why aren't you earning enough money for this? It's not the man's fault or the woman's fault or whatever fault. It's the way that history repeats itself. This is the cycle that we're going through, because it's the cycle that everyone's gone through. And if you and your wife are sticking it out, working together, making it work, you're one of the fortunate ones. And look at what Ty McFadden put in here. I worked in my dad's tire shop from the age I was 9, after school, weekends, and during the summer. See what I mean? Child labor works.
No doubt. Yeah.
I mean, we need to get lessons from Surfer. How does he make his kids work? So I had to do that.
Right. He's got, how many kids does he have?
He's like an Osmond, dude.
Right. There's like a lot, right? Like
they've got a couple million. You got. I think he's just a little bit behind the Osmonds. I think he's got maybe like 250,000. So give him another couple generations, they'll take over the planet. OC says 3 kids.
Oh, that's not so bad. He's only got me by 1.
Yeah, I was only able to make one. I had trouble getting kids on this planet. I had to do extra things to get them. But I wish I had 1 or 2 more. I wish I had a daughter. I always wanted a daughter.
Yeah.
I wanted a little girl to spoil, and do things, and and then when she reached her teenage years, scare the crap out of boys.
I feel lucky that I had boys, because I don't know if I've always been terrified of girls. Like, until I have, I got a good wife now, and she's kind of got me straightened out, but I wouldn't know how to handle girls. Scare me.
So me too. That's one of the reasons I wanted them, because I always go and do things to make things. I always go against my fears, but I knew that if I ever did get a girl, I'd have to rely upon my wife. Say, hey, help me out here, because I can't do things to girls that I do to boys. And when I was newly married to my wife, I told her that. I says, well, what do you mean? It says, with my boy, I could wrestle him, and I could put him into holds and flip him, and do all sort of horrible things with him. Girls, I'm afraid you touch them this or that, it's interpreted as being something else. Boy, you could roughhouse and go to town.
Right.
My son, I got to tell you this story. This is funny. My son was introduced to a young lady back when my wife was still living in Ukraine. I took him back with me to introduce him to my new wife. And she's such a sweet, kind, giving woman. That woman's got a heart of gold. You all think I'm generous. That woman makes me look like I'm Scrooge. But she introduced him to a little girl about his age, a pretty little girl by the name of Olga. And he when we're back home now, and he's emailing Olga, and they're developing their little relationship. Well, one day he decides he wants to wrestle me, and I was so proud of him. he got me in a hold, and he almost had me flipped. I was just like millimeters away from losing my footing on the ground. I'm like, oh no, if you win, you're gonna earn it. So knowing that I couldn't move, I was locked up. I used the only thing that I had left in my arsenal, psychiatry. And I said, son, I'm glad you're dating Olga. He says, yeah, why is that? It says, because she's got a cute little butt. And could you imagine the cute little butts that girl's going to give birth to? And he lost his cookies. And he was yelling at me, what? You are looking at my girlfriend's butt? He lost control of his hold. I broke free, slammed him on the floor, and said, never give your advantage up, kid. Never. No matter what happens, do not ever give the advantage up. He's like, you did that to trick me to win? I said, yeah. Worked too, didn't it?
That's funny. OC, he says that he had 2 daughters and used to hang out in the garage while doing brake jobs or timing belts. Not too scary. LOL. That's funny. Yeah. Well, that sounds like you got lucky though too, right? Like, you're probably a good dad.
So your daughters have a little bit of tomboy in them.
In common sense, it sounds like. So
yeah, tomboy and common sense. Tomboys are really cool to be around. You can do a lot of stuff that you would do with a boy. You don't have to put their worms on their hooks for them each and every time, or take slimy fishies off the hooks for them each and every time. Tomboys are really cool girls to hang out with. Actually, you know what? I've never taken my wife fishing. I'm going to have to do that. Never did that. Always talked about doing it with her dad. So tell me more about where your value is.
Well, like I say, first I try to put it in that, I guess for me, and everybody looks at things differently. For me, I call it my spiritual basket, and that's where I stack the hardest at. I think that we are in a way, and this is a way that I am describing it, but I think that we're kind of like antennas, and that we are able to receive messages, and that we have thrown away our God-given senses, I guess you could say. And so I'm trying to reconnect there and listen to those, because it's yeah. So I guess that I try to stack more in what I consider my spiritual basket, meaning I like to help those who I can help, and do what I can where I can, and be of a mind more of that, of more on others, kind of just those basic golden rules that have always been there, as of your neighbor as yourself, and your brother as yourself, and do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. And I think when you actually try to kind of do that, you're kind of building a buffer around yourself as well, in that where someone might try to hurt you, if you've been really helping a lot of people, something will be there to kind of to stop that bad thing from happening to you, because you've kind of built a positive ledger over on that side. And I know that might sound kind of crazy, but I've found it to be very true in my life. And so that's where I put my most value. And you asked me, so you heard it there. But next after that, I put it into silver. And that's my, and then once you get, a small stack of silver, or a foundation of silver, then I would say go to some gold. and get even more safe. And that's where because then you have something that's tangible that you can hold on to. It doesn't rely on anyone else's system.
Mm-mm.
And like I don't know if anybody watched Tucker Carlson with Secretary Bessent or not, our new secretary of the monetary system that we have. And he talked about gold. Tucker said, why is all this gold moving over to the USA and what's going on with gold? And man, oh man, did he ever open a can of worms. But he got a goofy look on him, joking about how they used to call him a gold bug, and at his fund that he ran, everybody considered him as a gold bug, but he talked about all the reasons that gold is good to own. It's been, and he talked about how it can't have a hyperinflated monetary system. It can't have a bunch of debt that it owes. It can't be over indebted. He just went into all the basics about gold, and I was like, wow, that's unloading a lot. But yeah, once you get something that's real, tangible, that is money of itself, like even if the system in which we operate, how like the Russians got kicked out of the SWIFT system, the banking system.
Mm-hmm.
If that happened worldwide, the gold and silver market would still be liquid worldwide because it's a liquid market before that whole electronic system started up.
True.
And so that's why it's even through market price, even through the manipulation that we have done to hold it down, it is now broken out above all currencies and waving a flag up there. And that's why all these other countries are buying it up. And that's why our Secretary of Treasury is saying, gold can't have this overblown debt. That's why people like it. And that's China's buying a whole bunch. And why? Because they can't get out of their dollar, but they can buy gold.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a way around those links, and it's the same, that's why it's good to have tangible real money, because even if they shut you down personally in your banking for something that, maybe it's a personal thing that they shut your bank off, or if your banking just shuts off or the electronics go down or what have you, you still have a base to rely on. You don't have nothing.
True.
And those things, I think, are the things that we're lacking most in our society. And I think that they're kind of tied together. And when we left the backing of reality, gold and silver, and we started printing all this fake fiat, and we created that false illusion of safety, we would just print up fake dollars and then buy real goods from other countries. And that gives you a false sense of, oh, I can just get what I want. I just buy it. But
Mm-hmm.
seems like we just seen these tariffs go up worldwide, and now suddenly we don't know what we're going to be able to buy tomorrow. And
Mm-hmm.
so that type of thing is what happens in these false systems, because it has to come back to reality at some point. And so, that's why I think this is a good base to have all around.
I agree. There was something biblically. I'm going to quote it because I put it in one of my videos. The video didn't do so well. It's really interesting. When I try to teach really valuable lessons, those videos don't do so well. I show more silver, they do well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the happy medium.
Yeah.
This one was about teaching your children and your grandchildren monetary values. So it's, quote, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it.
Yep.
And that came from, let me see, I got to find it again. I just lost it. Typical me. I'll tell you here in a second. It's a proverb. I'm having trouble pulling it out of memory, and I'm going to have to maximize my one screen because it's in my thumbnail. The title of the video is called "Silver Teaching Children." Uh, it doesn't show it very well, even maximized, but it's in one of the Proverbs. And if you teach your children right, when they're old, they won't change from it.
Yeah.
So, and that's that. This stuff needs to be taught to our kids.
Yep.
Our forefathers are smarter than what we are nowadays.
Yeah. Well, see, I think I think like when I look at my ancient coins, I can see, to me, they just kind of ooze a language of their own, or some some might think that's kooky, but or like saying that you can see the spirituality, or like the they almost come to life, I guess. I mean, I think that they can almost speak to you through the coin, and I think that was at a time when they very much were aware that there was a spiritual reality. And I think today we laugh at them and mock them and say, oh, they had so many gods, and I
Mm-hmm.
not saying I agree with lots of gods, but I'm just pointing out that they understood that there was a spiritual reality along with our what we look at as a very molecular, physical, like that's all we're taught to look at today, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we're wrong there. I think that they understood then that there is a spiritual reality to things. We've tried to say that there's no spirit at all, and it's how the pendulum kind of swings from one side to the other, and so I think we're missing lots of things because we haven't considered that as part of a reality. And if it is part of our reality, then that's a big part of reality left unknown,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, I think that's kind of some of our issues as a modern culture and society, and that's because I see for one thing, I see the mass media controlling people's minds for sure, way more than they should be able to. And it's like
brainwashing.
Yeah, to me it's like almost to a curse level. And then like through the whole pandemic, you've seen lots of what I would call, and you could call it different types of things, but I just kind of use spiritual. But like, you could see some major spiritual shifts that were happening, and people, an energy coming out of people that was like ravenous and quick to gnash at their, like be mad and lash out at people around them. And it's for a little bit of understandable. Like I say, like if you don't know where the pressure is coming from, like they say they do that with like lab rats and stuff, or stuff that where they put a bunch of rats or mice, or I heard it was with ants. I can't remember who was telling me this, but they put a bunch of like 100 red ants and 100 black ants in a bottle, and everything was fine. And they just managed to be fine with each other until someone started shaking the jar. And then they just tried to tear each other apart because they don't know. Must be the other person causing this problem, right?
Either that, or maybe they are instinctively wondering how much resources that they have.
Right. So I mean, but I mean that's kind of my point that I'm getting at is, it's when the pressure is coming from outside and you don't know where it's coming from, often you'll lash out at the person next to you. And if that happens to be your wife, well then now we're looking at a divorce, and why who knows, we're just yelling at each other without realizing a lot of the pressure is because of this monetary system over here. So yeah.
Oh, there's some really wonderful things here. First of all, let me say, aspiring alchemist, I feel your pain. So I've gone through similar types of things, and maybe pray that your son will find his way back home and you'll get your own prodigal son back.
Yes, and if I may speak on something, I might be speaking a little out of line, so everybody please bear with me and forgive me for this one. But I
Translation,
do.
turn off your computer. Oh, who said
Well, I do want to more like I see her comment there on that, and it's true, and a lot of people, this there's a few bad things going on out there, but a lot of like some of how do I say this? Some of the bad things are from like we have some of it coming to us. Like there's been a lot of lies told in mainstream churchianity, right? Like
that?
there's what do you call them, like prosperity type of preachers out there. Oh, send me money and God will bless you, or and so you know there is going to be this pendulum swing, right? Because like if you look around the world and you look at all the mainstream Christianity or religions are lots of different denominations, and they all think that they're the right one, and they all think the other ones are really bad. But my point being is lots of them have flaws in them. And there's been like I came out of I'll just I grew up in like a Baptist type church setting, and they're pretty strict on like certain things. And I've found a much of what I was taught isn't actually true, like according to that sect of religion is true. And but so the point of what I'm pointing out is not that there's not, there is a truth, there is a reality, there is a righteousness, there is, these right and wrong, but we just like we have been led astray like by a false mindset in mainstream media, we've also had that happen from our upbringing through lots of these different sects. And that's why I'm kind of talking about that we're antennas and we need to get back to the connection itself, and whereas a lot of there's been a lot of misdirection, and it's caused a lot of heartache and lots of pain, and just like our schools, a lot of the churches like the schools have also been corrupted. So understand that when your kids go off to college and they learn some things and they want to they rebel, and that the things that they were taught that were false, they did need to throw off. But the reality will come back around and set in at some point too, because again, reality is reality. And like I think that there is a spiritual reality to our presence as well. So, and life has a way of making that evident, I think, to all people who are paying attention in any way. So sometimes it might look, oh, like I sent my son off to college and now he's a heathen, that but over time he might go through some experiences that where he finds out the reality of truth, of what really is. So anyway.
Well, I think in my case, I taught my son right, but he had to go through the painful issue of divorce, where my ex-wife created trouble, and I am the type of person where I don't start fights, but I don't back away from them, and I don't start fights, I end them. And I think that him seeing all that, he developed a system where he learned how to stay out of the cannon fire. But that led him to some of the decisions, plus this whole, millennial mentality of entitlement. plus maybe a couple other things in that whole equation led him to be the way he is. And I had to tell him quite a few times, and painfully over the last few times, you know, you have two teachers in this world. You got me, and you got the rest of the world. And you have your choice. You can either learn from me, and this teacher loves you and wants what's best for you and will try his best to always teach you. But then you got the other teacher. And that teacher is the world. That teacher don't care about you. That teacher will eat you up, chew you up like a wad of tobacco and spit you out. And then you'll learn the hard way. You can learn the easy way with the teacher that loves you, or you can learn the hard way with the one that doesn't. And for some reason, certain kids, they always choose the hard way.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's like that's kind of a common.
I feel your pain, aspiring alchemist.
Yeah. Yeah.
But one day, I pray that the day will come when I can have my family back, and the crazy that exists in their heads will have subsided. But we'll see. Only God will tell. You know.
Indeed. Yeah, and I think that this is, that's kind of what I think this shaking is coming, and whether it's just a small localized financial thing that was coming, was a possibility, or was this going to be more worldwide, or those were questions that I had. However, I think we're just starting to see some of them come into like they're coming into play right now, and it's no longer kind of me just having to imagine it and try to explain. Like it's now kind of went into effect. Some of these changes are going to start to happen, and that's going to spur on the other monetary issues to come to a head as well. But that's why we, or I anyway, say this is the best tool for what I think is coming.
Yes.
As far as, and like I say, the best physical tool is these metals here. Is there a more important tool? Yes, but it's not of a physical nature like the metals are. So, but those are the two most important things. One is not physical, and the other is very much physical.
I agree. And if you think about it, gold and silver is God's money.
Yes.
The paper stuff is man's money. Paper stuff goes away. Gold and silver doesn't, unless it's like an explosion or something. But the point of the matter is, gold and silver were brought to us by God. And maybe if we keep our nose to the grindstone, work hard, pray hard, try to work on ourselves, maybe, like in Elle's case, my case, a few other cases, the families will work themselves out. And maybe like in your case where you have young'uns, they'll never go through that crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I pray for every young parent and every young kid and a young family that they never go through the crazy that some of us have gone through. I want to see more strong families, putting it together, sticking it out together. I want to hear more success stories. Like, Surfer's families is a success story. He has 3 daughters. They're working things out. He's got, a good head on his shoulders. He's got a good family. He's got a good friend in OC Stacker. Don't tell OC I said that.
Right.
But he's got a good head on his shoulders, and he's a good guy. not saying that those of us who had crappy things thrown our ways aren't good people. Aspiring Alchemist is one of the sweetest, nicest people I've met since I've joined YouTube, and so many others. You and Ginger. Don't tell Ginger I said that. But all joking aside, there's so many nice people here that none of us deserve stuff thrown our way. But if you look at it, the enemy, Lucifer, he wants to destroy everything that God has blessed. And he wants us to not have money, real money, gold and silver. He wants us to not have good families. He wants us to not have good, strong relationships with our spouses. He doesn't want any of us to have good, strong relationships with our best buds. And, the best thing you can do is pray for guidance and pray for success and pray that your success never ruins you mentally, so that you'll be there for your friends and your family and that whole thing. So I guess I've covered enough on that one.
Yeah, yep.
I agree with you, Broke. AA is a keeper. You can tell her I said that. We're now getting close to 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I suppose I better wind her down here and go talk to my loving wife.
Yeah, she and my wife talked for what, 2 hours or so. They had the best of times.
Yeah, that's awesome that they were able to.
Yeah, it was a rough day for my wife. I forget why. It's been many months ago, but it was a rough day. And she got done talking to your wife, and you would have swore she was a kid on Christmas.
Good. No,
So,
I think my wife enjoyed it too. So yeah, that was good.
yeah, I really enjoyed that with watching her come back and the little 5-year-old. When you're with someone, whether you're dating them or they just had a really good day, that it's a good moment because you get to see the 5-year-old. I'll explain what I mean. If you are dating someone or if you've been with them a long time, they've just had a really good day. You can see in their face, you can see in their eyes the 5-year-old that they used to be when their eyes and their face show you the 5-year-old little girl that lives in their soul, or the 5-year-old little boy that lives in their soul.
Yeah.
Okay. When I started dating my wife, very quickly she let me see the 5-year-old, and I knew I met the right girl. And when I got to meet her with her dad, I saw her again, and that type of thing. You can tell. I got to see her 5-year-old soul again when she got done talking to your wife. It was a wonderful magic moment for which I'm very grateful.
No, yeah, that's awesome. It's good that they got to talk. Yeah, McFadden. Yeah, that Patton is part of the Commander series, and they're exclusively sold from SD Bullion is where you can find that. I actually have a couple available. I'm not sure if I have a patent still or not. I know I don't have the first one here, but I have a few of the others that I will be putting up when I do an auction every once in a while. So
yeah, I changed what I'm doing with the Commander series.
Did you start with the Commander series too? I didn't know you.
I did, and I bought the 5-ounce silver for each of them, the 1/10 ounce gold for each of them, and the 1-ounce gold for each of them. But considering the price of gold and the fact that I'm not getting as many shifts as I used to be getting, and the price of everything, I had to change my stacking strategy. I'm just going to start getting the 5-ounce silver only, because with gold going up, my stacking strategy has changed. I personally am going to try to stack in gold American sovereign coins, preferably the pre-33. Not that I'm 100% a believer in the confiscation stuff, but if I'm wrong, I might have a better chance. I'm not stacking any of the slab stuff because I'm not sure that I'll be able to sell it, because you need a special market for that. But I am working towards getting gold solely under anything that is sovereign, whether it be a pre-33, an eagle, a buffalo, maybe a maple. But I'm kind of leaning towards doing that. Or if I find a really great deal on a bar, but I'm really leaning towards those types of things. Hey, Sean's Precious Bullion. How you doing, man? Haven't seen you in a while. Yeah, so I'd love to talk with you. So if you can, Sean, send me an email. I'd like to get in touch with you.
That's funny. That was what I told him in my last my last stream I did. I told him to shoot me an email, which I did. I got it, and I shot you one back. So yeah, I'd love to get you on, Sean. Sounds like Tiger would as well. It was funny because I was like,
yeah, he's a pretty smart dude. Even though his last one that I saw, he's hanging out with Surfer. God, he won't hang out with a tiger, but he'll hang out with a surfer. He doesn't even hang out with the bee.
That's about to change, though.
Oh, let's hope so. Maybe he just likes the way you store that honey.
Right. Well,
no, all joking aside, my stacking strategy has changed, and I do like the Commander series, but with the climbing price of gold, I just can't see myself dealing in the collectibles as much anymore. Maybe a little bit in the silver because it's less expensive, but in the gold arena, I just can't see myself doing it.
Yeah, well, you got to keep it interesting every once in a while. But yeah, I mean, you definitely want to keep especially like when I first started into silver, I wasn't quite as sure if what I was theorizing, about the system was right. And at that, I was like, maybe I'm just dreaming some of this stuff up, but it's not like I seem to see it. And so then I wasn't as concerned about my weight, and you could buy more just collectible type stuff. But then now that I'm way more positive that what I was thinking was going to happen is happening.
Yeah.
Then it's like, for sure, you want to get your weight covered. Your weight is for what is coming. That's the important thing. A weight of silver and a weight of gold, and get those covered, and then you can dabble a bit. But
yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. Stacker Factor, welcome in.
Welcome, Stacker Factor.
Yeah, but I probably should wind it down here, bud.
Yeah, me too. I gotta get to some editing on a video, pouring some additional silver. Chill with you after a show and that type of stuff. So, I'll let you say your goodbyes first, and then I'll set up for mine.
All right. Well, yeah. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us tonight in the chat. I had a great time and lots of good subjects covered, and I appreciate all of you. And yeah, thanks for the great support we get from the community. Appreciate you all. Thanks.
Thank you, Aspiring Alchemists, and yeah, if you all can hit the likes, and that type of thing, that'd be like really cool. I'd appreciate it. I will be. In June, I will be doing a members live stream similar to what we did in March. For those of you who have been at least 2 months consecutive members and that whole thing. So, feel free to come back. I know this was my typical impromptu topic, but once I get my life worked out with the job, I'll be a little bit more stable. I'm trying to get my Thursdays free. It's a battle, but I'll win it. Anyway, so I want to thank you all for coming. We will be having Stack Collector this coming Thursday. We had to make sure it was this Thursday because next Thursday I'll be working. And the following Thursday, we'll do Stack Collector. So this upcoming week, this Thursday, then 2 weeks later. And I want to thank you all for being here. If you'll be so kind as to hang out for the outro, because I think it's just absolutely adorable that what my brother-in-law did. So good night, everyone.
Yep.
My friends, let the stories unfold in the glow of our treasures, silver and gold. We honor the past, history's gleam. Through science and art, we follow the dream. Frostbite, Nick, surfer, Yankee by name. In the circle of passion, we burn with the flame. 1,500 strong, our bond won't sever. In this world of collectors, we're united forever. So let's jingle our silver, let it ring so true. Spin the wheel of fortune, let the fun shine through. With every coin, every bar, every nugget we hold, we're a family of seekers of silver and gold. On the stream we gather like stars in the night, sharing stories and laughter, shining so bright. We treasure the chase, every find is a win. Through the highs and the lows, let the games begin. Every minute mark a memory, every ounce a prize. Each piece tells a story through our curious eyes. We honor the beauty, the craft and the lore. With every collection we hunger for more. So let's jingle our silver, let it ring so true. Spin the wheel of fortune, let the fun shine through. With every coin, every bar, every nugget we hold, we're a family of seekers of silver and gold. Our community strong, unbreakable, bold, a legacy timeless like silver and gold. To history and science we lift up our cheers. Together we shine through the passing of years. To the collectors, the dreamers, the friends by our side, in the glow of the treasures, our hearts